God, our divine spirit, we ask you that you send the Holy Spirit down to guide us and show us the way for the highest good of our city, our residents, our country. We ask that you allow our council to make decisions that are proper and best for all. We ask you to bless everyone in this country and in our world. We thank thee. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. Shutt.
Yes, sir. Mayor Dale Massad.
Here.
Vice Mayor Terrence Rowe.
Here.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
City Attorney Joseph Public.
Here.
City Manager James Matthew.
Here.
Please let the record show that Councilwoman Nancy Britton and Councilman William Dittmer are absent this evening.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Joe, how many do we have? Announcements, staff. Tim? Anything? Pat? Okay. Comments from the general public. Thomas Brown.
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court. I would like to thank those of you that took over the investigation that former council member Phyllis Gray was conducting as to whether Lake Cox naturally formed or was dug. Please check with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to see if a permit was ever issued to dig a lake at that location. Please check with Pasco County to see that they deeded Lake Cox to the city of Port Richey in 1979 before any construction began on the Candlelight homes. Please check with the University of Florida, Gainesville, and the state of Florida for aerial photos from the 1960s and 1970s. Please help prove me right that it formed naturally and prove Tom O'Neill wrong that it was dug. He offered no proof, just an opinion. Thank you.
Penfield Honduras. Pretty good.
Hi. I'm also a resident of Candlelight Court.
Ma'am, would you just state your full name?
Well,
and
certainly.
your address?
It is Penfield Hondros. My nickname is Pen, what you write with. Anyway, my spouse is Bruce Darling. Some of you may or may not know him. He's a retired contractor, built over 500 homes in Pinellas and Pasco. So unfortunately, he can't be here, so I have to be the mouthpiece. He's a fencing instructor. So I'm calling your attention to this letter from Michael Garrett to Mr. Jim Matthew. Do I need to go into detail? Okay, you know who those people are?
They might not know.
Okay, all right. Jim Matthew
sorry,
is the
Gary.
interim city manager for the city of Port Richey, and Michael Garrett is the public works director. And the subject is the request for access to Walnut Street. This letter is dated June 3rd. And so there seems to be some brouhaha. The Walnut Street was paved, okay? None of the residents on Candlelight Court, which abuts Walnut, were given notice prior to the paving. As a matter of fact, we found out when they just started to park the cherry pickers and all the heavy equipment up there, and my dogs started to go nuts. I'm like, what's going on? So that's one grievance, is that we were entitled to be given legal notice of any improvements, particularly to a road which abuts our property, okay? So then they went ahead and paved it. That's fine, that's lovely. But now they're telling us, well, guess what? You have no access, because we went ahead and gave all these people on Walnut an assessment And that's what this letter discusses. They have their 15-year payment plan, and that's lovely, $8,300. But nobody said, hey, you guys, you want to pay too? Because guess what? We said, yeah, because we have some money invested there. There's very poor drainage. As a matter of fact, resultant to the new pavement, the drainage is worse because they've raised the layer now. So it has further to go, and they've disturbed the trough. And my next door neighbor, who may or may not tell you all about it, but their shed is just about floating away. And with respect to the law, I'm sure you're familiar with the terms grandfathered, okay? We have all had access to Walnut. About 70% of the people on the street have gated rear gates to their property, okay? So some of them have been closed off by ill repair of the fence, but it's been this way for 30 years. So now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, no, you can't have access. They were assessed, they paid, you can't go on this road, and never mind you. Well, guess what? We don't think so. So we're here to talk about it and find out what you have to say about it.
I'm gonna
That's our
let
opinion.
a second more.
Okay?
May I talked with Jack Mariano about that last night. Mr. Matthew has also talked to him. We're gonna have a ride around and see if we can make some changes to that. That seemed to be, in his opinion, the way I just felt it, a problem with the county attorneys. I don't know.
Yeah.
What we will try to do is pave Orange Grove Street. That's what I'm pushing. We have funds for that, depending on the council.
That'd be lovely. Our tires have been going out of
Yeah,
alignment for years.
I don't want to ride
yeah.
down there again.
No, it's
It tears
horrible.
my car up. But I am working on that with Jack.
Well, the paving is good. I mean, we need it, and we were all kind of like aghast, like, what? They're paving the dirt road before they get our, because if you don't have an SUV, you go down Orange Grove like this. So every day, do it 4 times a day, you get a little neck pain. So I'm just, I'm just being real. This is the way it is, so.
Let me assure you, we are on it. Jack,
Well, let me, do you mind if I say something? Just, I don't know how much you know about it, Mr. Rower. You probably don't know a lot about it. The issue that's going on is very complex, and I knew of their problem, so I wrote a rather lengthy letter to all the county commissioners on behalf of you. The letter you're referring to is the response they gave me, which was a resounding no, right?
This one, yeah, oh, it's
they wrote
very
it back to
no.
me. So I wrote to the
Yeah.
county administrator and everything, outlining the situation, even said, look, you're not giving these people even the option if there's a cost to do it, which I
Right.
thought was more, and they said, no, go pound sand. So that's, it's kind of like I can't do any more personally, but at this
And-
point in time,
right.
they're telling me no, they won't respond to me anymore, so the mayor says he's gonna try it politically.
would you be up for?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I'm more than happy to go over and see
Jack
them.
Mariano is
They're telling
willing
me
to
no,
take
yeah.
a ride with us.
That's Mike Mariano, that's you? No, I'm sorry.
No,
Jack,
I'm,
Jack.
I'm the
I'm sorry.
person they told no to. That
Oh,
letter's to
you're,
me.
oh, okay.
I'm the guy that tried to help you,
Oh,
and they
that's
told
you.
me no.
Yeah, you're Jim Matthew. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, good, okay. Well,
So,
we appreciate your
I
help.
will be
Yeah.
working on that for you, I promise.
Okay, and, yeah, so, and there are some precedents, which is just real strange. Like the fact that the one woman on the corner of Orange Grove and Walnut, she has 3 aprons. So she has a triple access to both roads. And, and as I said before, the fact that we have had access for 30 years and them just throwing up flags and going, we spent money, now you don't.
You gotta say that. The problem is, those type of issues are each individual property owner. Maybe you need to get a lawyer and go to the county. These aren't our issues. We're just
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
help you from a political standpoint.
Yeah, and them saying they'd throw up a fence. That was the other thing. Like, what? Like, in other words, like, we've made our point, and now, guess what? You don't like it? We're going to throw up a fence.
You might want to go to the county commission meeting, because I have to tell you something.
Oh, no,
What they're
yeah.
doing, in my opinion, is just, there's no reason for it.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I got friends in the press. Go ahead. We'll just watch you build that fence. Show you the waste of money. All right, I've wasted.
You have friends here, and we will be.
I
looking.
appreciate that. I think y'all will.
I have Gary Oakley.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Oakley. I also live on Candlelight Court. I'm next door neighbors to a few of the folks that are in here already. I also would like to voice my support to have this done, whatever the city can do, because we realize that the city stops right outside the back of our fence. Also, right outside the back of our fence is the water main that feeds our little community. And I'm just thinking, if the county decides to come in and put a fence, I hope they drive it right through the water main, because that'll bring it right to their attention that something needs to be done. And we've had, I think my house is one of the oldest houses in the neighborhood. Now, although we've lived there for about 12 years, have not had any problems whatsoever gaining access through the back. And in fact, I've made improvements in mine yard where I've put a slab in. I have a trailer. My wife and I are rebuilding a vintage trailer. And so the only way in is through Walnut, and the only way out is through my front yard, which I have a concrete slab, and it's all been permitted. Everything is good. There's no way I could ever back that trailer down the side of my house to put it back on that slab. So they've taken that away by this letter.
Well, again, we're gonna work on that, but if you all would get my email,
Okay.
you and Penfield, send me any things that are pertinent that I can bring up to the commission,
Okay.
and I will do that.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir. Claudia Smith. I'm gonna give you a show.
Claudia Smith, 7335 Candlelight Court. Yay, Candlelight. I actually am not here to talk about the gate, although I agree with everything, and I've kind of been involved in everything. But what I would like to do, last 2 weeks ago, Sandy got up and said, we would like to have answers to our questions. So what I want to do is propose that as part of our agenda, every 2 weeks, one of the first things that you do is answer the questions that the citizens have from the prior 2 weeks, because that's not happening. And we have asked that before, and why are we getting up here and we're talking if that's all that's happening? We're talking, but we're getting no response. And we do have questions, we've been asking them, we're not getting responses. So if you would please look to put that as part of our agenda every 2 weeks, answer the questions. If there's no questions that are asked today, then on the agenda in 2 weeks, say, no questions for the citizens, something. But let us know by answering the questions that you're listening. Thank you.
Did we not do that tonight? Did we not? I have tried to change that as we go. We're responding. Let's see, Leonard Lord, Reverend.
Yes, sir. Just Leonard's good, Mayor. Thank you. Leonard Lord, I pastored 8114 Leo Kidd Avenue. Just want to again thank the council, the mayor, and all for the support in helping people get back to school. Particularly want to thank the chief and just their hospitality over at the fire station, and the chief with the police department. I think it's so healthy to see us working together to help people get going. So this year, the backpack giveaway will be over at the fire station July 30. We'll be having registrations about a week to 10 days prior to that, so we'll have giveaways at 10, 11, and 12 with registration starting at 9. That's July 30. Also, if you'd like to have, Light of the World has committed to buying 150 backpacks at $9 a piece stuffed. I don't know if you know what a bargain that is, but by Somebody Cares Tampa Bay, they work with business people, and so we send a truck to Tampa and load all this and come back and we pack it up. So right now I think we've got about 1,200 coming for the area. So if you would like to help us, and we use funds, as Nancy Britton had called us, a lady was maybe going to be on the street, but things were getting better, so we were able to help pay their rent. We pay water bills, get tickets for people, get them off the street. So if you help us with backpacks or anybody, that has funds for other things. So if you want to help, that's $9 a backpack, and we're committed to $150 so far, which was $1,350. We've done it for years. I do also want to say that this year we'll be stuffing at Light of the World Tabernacle. The Civic Center we used to stuff at, we won't be able to do it. So if you want to have a good time, come out with about 1,200 backpacks. And if you can see this, in about 35 minutes, we stuffed 1,200 backpacks. And we have a great time. We have some songs. We pray over the backpacks. We get them set to go out. So probably we'll be stuffing about 1,200 to 1,500. So I will be getting, Tammy has this as a folder for particularly businessmen. It tells you about the backpack, how much they are, how you can give, how you can be a sponsor. And actually, if you get backpacks, donate over $100, you can have a business card put in every backpack when we stuff them. You get your cards and put them in, so they'll know you're a part of getting them back to school. The biggest part of it is we do get to encourage the children, see what needs they have, and out of that has come maybe helping with clothes, food, and other things. So thank you very much, council, and if you'd get the word out, if we could get more backpacks or someone help us, that'd be a blessing. And thank you for the support. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bless you.
If the council would not mind, I'd like to move forward Mr. Angel with his presentation because he is very stressed for time. So, Mr. Angel, I'm going to let you move forward.
So,
He's not on the clock.
Gearin Angel, 8010 Brighton Drive, Port Richey, Florida. Also have a business in the city, lifelong resident. We've had some discussions previously about how we need to generate new revenue streams for the city. I was here a couple weeks ago and we discussed a plan to move forward slightly and start to really put some of this on the table. I prepared a little package there for you sitting in front of you. It has a walkthrough about cannabis. And for the purposes of today's discussion, to keep this short, we're going to break cannabis down into two molecules. It is much more complex than this, but THC and CBD. THC being the psychotropic molecule that the world is afraid of, and CBD being a molecule predominant in the hemp plant. And today's discussion is going to cover two different topics. One would be the decriminalization of THC and moving it towards just a civil citation instead of an arrest. And the other topic is going to be about allowing low THC dispensaries in the city and creating a revenue model to bring new money in. One of the problems as I analyze the city is how do you bring money in here? Because we have a lack of innovative centers or a lack of industry. So let's create a new industry. And I'm not saying cannabis is the only industry that needs to be created in this city, but we have an opportunity right now, and the science is much further ahead than what the public perceives it as. We can bring in nanotechnology factories and high-end scientists and doctors and create a whole medical environment in this community because Pasco has decided to take a pass on it. So the amount of investment that could come here, unlimited, especially if Pasco continues to have a stay on low THC dispensaries. And I've come up with a revenue model. I'd like to walk you slowly through this booklet because every one of you should basically have one to take home, do a little reading, do some research as well so we're educated on this topic and make sure that we make the right decision for the city. So first, what is the difference between THC and CBD? In the simplest of forms, CBD is non-psychotropic, THC is. I believe personally that THC is a great molecule for mental health, and that is definitely an issue in our county. So I believe it does have medical applications. I'm a huge proponent of CBD. I travel to Israel quite a bit. That's the worldwide leader in cannabis research. I work closely with the university and world-renowned scientists over there. I'm actually on a team that is absolutely incredible to be a part of, and this will cause a paradigm shift in medical treatment options. So in your city, you have a pioneer in the industry and somebody who is connected to the top level. I want to bring this science here for our residents and give people an option. If you're dealing with inflammation or diabetes we can really play a role in reducing your dependence on pharmaceutical pills and make it so that you can start to have control of your own patient empowerment. Why aren't there more studies on THC and CBD? And the reason is because currently they're scheduled as a Schedule I narcotic, which is scary. I mean, that's a difficult thing, for law enforcement to deal with. And what's happened around the country is everybody has realized in the lower levels of government that these are medical molecules and they do have a role in society. What that role is has been determined state to state, county by county, and city by city at this point. And I think that the city of Port Richey really has an opportunity to lead the state of Florida, because I will bring the best molecules in the world to this city. And we'll make them available for our residents, and we'll become a destination. We will bring people into the city to buy these molecules. This is medicine. This would be just like if we could have, a Pfizer or a Bayer or one of those located in our city, but we're at the infancy of this. So the opportunity when you can have corporate headquarters, and this is what we don't have, and this is why we're struggling. Let's go through a little bit about what cannabis does. All right, I compiled this through here. Nausea, there's been 35 studies on it. There should have been way more studies on nausea. 29 of them indicated. Epilepsy, you've seen that. Actually, GW Pharmaceuticals just released another positive study regarding epilepsy, glaucoma, depression. Now, there's never been a study centered on cannabis and cancer, all right? But, many people who have cancer rely on the molecules to help them through their chemotherapy treatment option. And in Petri dishes, we can show that these molecules actually kill cancer cells. So as this science develops, is it a treatment option? Likely, but what we need to do is put these research facilities in place and work with top-notch universities. And one of the things I did want to touch on that I didn't mention, it is very likely that the federal government will shortly reschedule both THC and CBD. To speculate where they go to is difficult, but it would be, I don't think it'd be too much of a stretch to consider the prospect that CBD could be completely descheduled and just be a dietary supplement here soon, which could make some of this a moot point. I want to go to, there's a spot in this book. It says all Florida decriminalized cities, and it's going to give you a breakdown. Remember, I wanted to make this two-part, so this is going to be the part on decriminalization. These are the cities, or the cities that have currently decriminalized, and if you go to the back, the Tampa, Orlando, and Miami ordinances are there for the city attorney to review and draft some kind of a, an ordinance for Port Richey. It's pretty basic and pretty standard. It's usually 20 grams or less. It's usually somewhere between $50 to $100 of a civil fine. And we just want to stop arresting people for things that are not causing any harm in our society. So I think that's enough on the decriminalization of cannabis. I'll open it up for questions afterwards. I'd like to go to the next page just before the appendix, which says, how will this make a difference for the city of Port Richey? We can't tax our existing businesses. That's the most anti-business way to do something. What we can do is, there's an opportunity in this city that does not exist in the county. So businesses would pay a premium in order to operate legally. And with that, I propose a 5% tax. And not that I want to tax sick people. I don't want to do that at all. But I realize that in politics, there has to be a bend and a give on both sides. So let's create a revenue stream, right? And at the same token, let's make this medicine accessible to the residents of my county, of Pasco County. And let's also bring more people into our city to spend dollars. That's really what the goal of the government is. It's to support business and the population and give us good services. Fortunately, I'm a very huge fan of the services of the city, of both the police department and the fire department. I love having them here, and I think that a cooperative and an educational understanding between expectations of the peers that would be in this industry. It's just, let's always have it as an open roundtable and make it so it's a very comfortable environment where together we win. We're creating new revenues, helping pay for the services that this city needs to support. And beyond that, I had to come up with a figure. What do we think that we could sell in a dispensary in the city of Port Richey? So I gauged it somewhere between $1 and $10 million annually for low THC. This market is unproven. Florida is said to be the second largest state when we legalize. So if we can get out ahead of this and get the infrastructure into the city, what's going to happen is the vacant properties around here are going to get bought up. And what that does is that increases our tax roll. This also brings in very high-paying jobs. And high-paying jobs bring in high-earning residents. And what we want is we want people that have the ability to rehab our properties. So, if you look, the title of this is From Poverty to Prosperity, and I am certain that every one of you that is on this table up here understands that our city is in a poverty situation. We constantly run at a deficit, and we are always struggling to try to balance this budget. And this will be my first foray into helping the city come up with new revenue streams. When we prove in a good business and government relationship, I'm an innovator. I will continue to bring new opportunities to the city, and we will build this city together. And let's make a change. Let's go to the tip of the spear. I said that last time, and I'm also going to say this: riding on the tip of the spear, you get cuts sometimes, guys. Okay, so as we walk down this road, I want to make sure that when there's a slip up, this isn't a massive problem. We stitch wounds and we heal together. So anytime there's a problem, we're going to discuss it in an open forum, like ladies and gentlemen, and we're always going to find a solution, because there is never too big of a problem when we do things for the right reason. And this is the right reason. It's the right reason for everything. The science that we were given for 80 years was wrong. And at some point in time, wrongs are righted. And our city has a chance to do that. Beyond that is the appendix, which is, I referenced earlier. I'd like for you to read through the other ordinances. If these big cities with huge law firms and all kinds of resources at their disposal are making this decision, I think we should also follow their suit. There's a reason why they're the largest cities in our state, and it's because they make smart decisions. So let's do the exact same thing. That concludes what I had to say on my end. I would love to take any questions, clarify anything that I discussed, and bring the best medicine in the world to the city of Port Richey.
Garen, the CBDs are legal. I didn't know cannabinol was scheduled in any way.
Cannabidiol is kind of a tricky area, but I know because we've had these communications one-on-one. The DEA considers it a Schedule I narcotic. However, it is not enforced anywhere. So currently you can buy CBD on Amazon. Actually, they just removed it. I take that back. But there's grocery stores and drug stores that are now selling CBD right on the shelf. And I do want to make one point. The CBD that I'm talking about making accessible to our residents is on a whole new level. And I don't want that to be scary for anybody, because we're talking about non-psychotropic molecules. But what changes is the bioavailability of it. So we have it in vessels that deliver it into the intestines and increase the bioavailability by a 10, 11x magnitude over what a lot of traditional treatment applications are. So with that being said, the response rate could potentially be greater as these clinical studies come to light.
Now, when we started talking on this, I did some research. What I understand is CBDs what I read was they were legal in all 50 states.
Yeah, that's not correct. You know, if I can tell you that they're being sold at a gas station here locally now, and there's a big sign out front, and it's simply because, unlike spice, where it's a very harmful substance, you know, cannabidiol or CBD has really no abuse liability, no psychotropic properties, so it doesn't have the same concerns. So it's really a non-prosecutable molecule. I mean, I don't know that a jury of your peers could ever convict you of distributing CBD, but at the same token, I'm an honorable businessman that's trying to operate within the confines of the law. I'm not trying to open a gas station and distribute CBD. I want to give this to people in a medical environment where, you know, they can have their questions answered and where there's constant clinical studies being done to support the use of this medicine.
Okay. For the public, the CBDs have been studied in several universities. Garen told me that it was good for chronic pain, which I have 11 operations later. It actually works, and I bought it off Amazon last week. It's just an oil.
Yep.
And you rub it in, and there's a capsule as well. But now you're telling me that they quit selling it?
You know, I know at Amazon at one point had taken a stance, you know, it was all over Amazon, and then they kind of delisted some of them, and they might be back on there now, you know. But and that's really the point, is that, you know, you can get these things now. So by the county taking a pass on this, you see how the opportunity exists. People are buying this if they want it now, and this should not be restricted. There's no reason to restrict this.
Right. And again, for the public, we have a lot of older people. I am one of them. Chronic pain. It does seem to have a lot of studies that back reversing diabetes and several other things which you've listed. So I wanted the public to understand we're not legalizing marijuana. This is more of a medicine. And I'm frankly can testify that it works for chronic pain. So that's the first thing. The CBDs are not psychotropic. And the second thing is decriminalizing THC, which is marijuana. I don't know what are if a young man is caught with marijuana, what is the penalty in Florida? I mean, from where to where?
You know, I'd really love to let the chief take this.
It could be up to 1 year in jail, actually,
Right.
and $1,000 fine, I believe.
Yeah, and what I want to say is, the ones of you who have kids or those of you who have grandkids, you can ruin, their lives can be ruined by that. I'm not promoting marijuana, but decriminalizing it could make a difference in a lot of young lives. So those are the two issues. I'm gonna let the council have any.
What cities have decriminalized?
Tampa, Miami, Orlando, I believe West Palm Beach just did. I have a list in here for you, and it's right before the appendix. It's the page before, you know, how this will make a difference for the city of Port Richey. So in August, Key West unanimously passed it. Last year, I'm assuming. Broward County, Miami, yeah, that was last year. So we've got Broward, Palm Beach, Volusia, Tampa, Miami-Dade, Miami Beach. You know, these are the cities that, you know, I know it's a stretch to put the city of Port Richey in that context, but we have water, guys. I mean, so we have a beautiful city. Let's give people a reason to move here.
I have a question for the chief. If this is outlawed in the state, how do these individual communities legalize it?
Therein lies a little bit of a challenge that you have. The city can make an ordinance to where inside our city limits that we will decriminalize it. If the person crosses over to Newport Richey, Hudson, and they have it, they'll be charged criminally. At any time, even though you decriminalize it, it's more of a policy, that statute is still there to be used. And even the ones that decriminalize, if, for example, you were stopped 3 times in a short period of time, they might not escalate it up to the 4th fine. They would make it criminal again, and that's a little bit of the challenge.
Okay, as I understood it, Chief, federal law will always trump state law, and state law will trump city law. So even if our policeman stops a kid or finds marijuana, he can, even if we pass this, he can still, at his discretion, charge him with marijuana.
That is true. He could.
Right.
But normally what you do is you make it a policy and you try to encourage that not to occur.
Okay. So for all of us that grew up as kids and the police took us home when we were drinking, these kids today have a great chance of having their lives ruined for silly things.
And let's not just talk about kids, let's talk about the worker. So the guy, you use CBD and it gave you a good response. I'm going to tell you that THC gives you a mental break, okay? And we've had the President of the United States who have said that this is safer than alcohol, okay? So at every level of government, except for the DEA, and not on the DEA's fault, it's just our government's somewhat dysfunctional at times, and we're moving along and we're getting there, right? But you've got the commander-in-chief of the government, which is who every one of you on here would answer to if he came in the room, who has already went on record and said this. So let's think about, the father who comes home from work and had a really terrible day. And instead of drinking 27 shots of tequila, he decided to smoke or to eat, a cannabis edible. And should he go to prison for that or jail for a year? I mean, this is just, and does he, not just that, now his job finds out and he loses his job. And it's just the repercussions and the ripple effect. And at the same token, we haven't taken the power away. I'm not trying to take the power away from the police at all. What I'm trying to do is create a collaborative environment where they have a decision. At the end of the day, even if this ordinance is in place, if somebody is a complete terrible person and uncooperative in life, they can still arrest them. So it's giving officers a choice to choose something that's not a waste of resources. And that's really what we have, if you ask people, even in this room openly at this point, statistically speaking, you'd get somewhere between 30 to 50% of the people in this room right now that use cannabis at least once a year. So does that mean they should all go to jail for that? At some point in time, you have to realize that this is part of society. When Elvis started rocking his hips, that was a big thing. Well, we're a little further than that now. So let's start to look at psychotropics and how they apply and how they can be used for mental health. And this gives us the format to explore both of those. And if this doesn't work and if it's a catastrophe for the city, repeal the ordinance. But let's move forward and let's go to the tip of the spear. I mean, let's not wait to be the last person to do anything anymore. When we see a positive trend that's going to cause economic growth, let's invest in it. Let's get behind those business leaders, bring them into our community, and be supportive of them.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, what is the face of this going to look like? When you say you're going to bring business in, what is it going to look like?
Let's put together a committee and let's establish the guidelines of what it takes. In my context, I'd love to see it as beautiful wellness centers that are very welcoming. I think part of the beauty of using cannabis as a medicine is that you're not taking pills. And so when you wake up every day and you're dependent on pills, psychologically you've already lost the war. And so when we have a way now to change the mentality of a patient and get them to walk into a wellness center and where, you know, we can change their diet and teach them about other stress reduction and bacteria in the gut, and just have common sense discussions with people one-on-one. It's a very friendly atmosphere. And what I'd like to do is I would love to be a part or even chair that committee to help set the guidelines of what we want it to be. But let's set the standards, and let's set the standards high. And let's set the standards high so people who want to be in this industry and want to be at the top of the field come here. Let's create a community where it causes a ripple effect. It causes investment.
Now that I bought that, am I in violation of something?
It's unprosecutable. The real answer is Amazon would also be in violation because they sold or were the facilitator of a Schedule I narcotic. So I'm sure if Amazon's legal team passed it, you're probably all right.
Okay.
And that's where we're at, guys. Amazon's legal team passed it. So just put that in perspective.
Well, there's 6 million hits when you put in CBD. I wasn't aware of it, but any more from council? Want to take it to the
I
public?
guess I'd like to, I'd hate to put you on the spot, Chief, but what concerns, if any, would you have about this in our town?
If I'm speaking at the top of my head, I would say that if we're talking adults, I have very little concern with decriminalizing it at 20 grams. If we're talking juveniles, that's something I think we need to talk about a little bit more, because with a juvenile, a fine isn't what I'd want. I'd want something to where if the kid is using this as a gateway, that we get them into something that they understand that they shouldn't be moving on to other drugs. Dispensaries, I'm not sure. You know, that's something we'd all have to talk, because are we making our little city, you know, like Norway or something? Are we giving a free zone? I don't, that part I'm not sure I understand, because, you know, if you buy it here and you drive out, and this is a very small city, you blink, you're out of it, you're committing a crime as soon as you drive out of it. And when you have marijuana, marijuana is one of those unique drugs that always is a tool in law enforcement, because most of you know I did narcotics for years in Tampa, and you wouldn't believe how many people at kilos we would take down because they would be driving around smoking marijuana, and once you smell it, it gives you the right to search a car. So that wouldn't leave either. You know, you'd still have the right, even if it was legally bought here, to search people based on just that smell alone. So there's a lot that we need to talk about, but if we're talking adults, giving them a fine, I tell you right now, I don't have a problem with that.
But
There's one thing I want to weigh in on that, though, just to clarify, because the state of Florida has a low THC medical marijuana program. So if you, or a medical cannabis program, I despise the word marijuana, but if you drive out of the city, if we had a dispensary here, first of all, you'd be dispensing low THC, essentially hemp, which is what you bought. And then when you left the city, the Pasco County could not arrest you for that at that point, because you're in compliance with state law. And NOCO can't make low THC illegal in the county because it's legal at the state level.
local THC and
Low
CBD
THC.
are legal,
Low THC is legal at the state level right now.
correct?
Low THC, less than 0.3%.
I don't have any THC in the stuff you told me to buy. Then
But you still have, in the DEA's eyes, a Schedule I narcotic. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing and makes no logical sense, but we have an inefficient government at this point as far as rectifying the situation.
it's hard to control something you can grow in your backyard. Any more from council? Public. Ms. Spalding, Garen, please stay up and help answer.
Stay right here. I need you right there. Sandra Spalding, 8207 Old Post Road. I really believe this is a double-edged sword on these facilities that you're going to give this out. Are there medical doctors there? Are they going to give it out to sick people?
The way that the Florida law is written is that it's prescribed through a doctor. So, and please also understand that we're dispensing low THC, so there's no psychotropic. So if a
Excuse
doctor,
me, honey. Low, high, I have nothing to do with that. I want to know, if they come in with a script, you will sell it to them. If they don't have a script, are you going to sell it to them?
that's not the way the program works in the state of Florida. So it's not a yes,
I
the answer is
understand.
no, is the answer.
Okay.
But they could buy it from the gas station right now.
I'm not talking about the gas
I realize
station. Talking about our city, I'm talking about, I want to make sure that this drug, quote, is going to be given by a doctor. And a prescription, just like I go in for a prescription for my inhaler, okay? Now, you talk about this, that, most of us, how many of you know what he's talking about? Tell the truth. And the rest, well, you don't count. You don't count. Okay, most of us don't even know what you're talking about. So bring it down to our level a little bit. Have it put in an ordinance that it has to go on prescription, not just an adult, okay? And not that the children could go buy it without a script. So you're talking, with a dual tongue here, as far as my ears are concerned, all right? So if this ordinance is going to go through, which that's up to the council, they're going to do it for the highest good of the city, I want everything in black and white and every single word proper and all the periods and the question marks in it, okay? So please don't get up here and say, we have a percentage of this and that and this and that. We don't know what you're talking about. Speaking a lower form of English for us. Now you're talking to somebody who's never tried pot, and I would never will. So I don't know what you're saying. Most of us don't know.
And in all fairness, right, I'm highly educated on this topic. So when you go to your doctor speaks to you in English that you can semi-understand, okay?
I can always understand what he says.
Okay, well, some doctors communicate that way, and I'll sit down with you and grab a cup of coffee, and I will teach you everything in the world you want to know about CBD, and not only will you like it, but you'll probably wind up buying it on Amazon.
Okay.
3 minutes is up.
Do you know I'm going to take you up on that?
Okay.
Give me a hug. I mean, we're not leaving it like that.
Anyone else public? Yes, ma'am.
Claudia Smith, 7335 Candlelight Court. I have two things. Why did Pasco County not want to do this?
That's really a question for the county commissioners, but I have spoke to a couple of them. Sheriff Noko is not yet on board with low THC, and I don't want to speak for Sheriff Noko and put him on the spot like that, but I believe that's what the holdup is, as well as they kind of wanted to see how it went in the rest of the state. This has been done around the country and around the world. And if we continue to wait, we are never going to have industry. And that's the opportunity here that I'm trying to educate the council on to seize, is to actually seize an opportunity to bring new business and new innovation into a dying city.
One more question. I would prefer, if we would do anything like this, that the citizens be able to vote and not just have city council make the decision, because I think it involves and it affects all the citizens, and I don't know what they did with other cities, but that would be my preference.
May I make just this comment for you? What he's talking about is not psychotropic. It's not what you're thinking about marijuana. It is not. We're not legalizing marijuana. We can't. We're just making kids, if they were to get caught, and I always say kids because I worry about their lives, they're not going to be charged with a criminal offense. The CBD is an absolutely benign molecule, speaking from the medical profession, and it has very good studies that help people like me with pain or someone with diabetes. So it's not we're going to go buy a drug. CBDs are not a drug. They are not psychotropic. And elections cost a lot of money.
Well, we could put it on the ballot in November.
Okay,
That's all I have.
next, thank you. Anyone else?
My one comment to that would be, you have a window here that's closing to really create a new industry. And I'm not trying to put anybody's, feet to the fire. For me, I don't, this doesn't change my life. I have opportunities globally. I'm trying to do something. We had a discussion that said, and I had it with several of you, that said, we need to generate new revenue for the city. And so I did a similar plan with some of my colleagues for the country of Jamaica, and this is the exact same thing. This is actually the same title of what we gave them, From Poverty to Prosperity. And it's literally a way to create a new industry. And that's what we need. We have too much vacancy, not enough revenues, and a declining base in every single category that you could think of in this city. So let's reverse that.
Thank you very much. Oh, Pembroke, Phil, Penn.
One and very easy. Hi, Angel.
Hello.
Yeah, Candlelight Court lady again. I just had a question, or perhaps an idea. This would help. I'm sorry, I forgot her name. Sylvia or something? The one that was here before. Sandy. Okay. So, in the idea of educating the public, okay, maybe, you know how the insurance companies offer the seminars and the workshops and when it's time for the Medicare and you sign up and you do this, and because we've got to make decisions. And so I think a big aspect of this is educating people. I myself, I buy hemp hearts. I'm really into studying things and anti-aging, and the power of hemp is magnificent. It's a tri-chain fatty acid, long-chain fatty acid. What's in the hemp itself is amazing. Cardiovascular, your heart, your lungs, your brain, everything. So something that's derived from hemp that has nothing to do with psychotropic properties, whether it's your lotion and you rub it on the inflammation. So those are the questions that I have. Are we talking about an oil that's dispersed in, with fluid and oxygen? Are you selling accompanying equipment? Are you putting it in a lotion to be rubbed on? Is it in a food form? And what medical characteristics are available? The education on such things, because these are the important factors that have to do with, basically, okay, how much of you have ever gone surfing before also? You know about catching the wave and missing the wave. Really big on this entrepreneurial thing. I was a stockbroker when I was 19. I had to tie my customers down and make them buy shares in Tootsie. Remember Tootsie? Dustin Hoffman, dressed like a chick? Nobody wanted to do it. They were all excited. I couldn't make the money. The other thing, the little tin cans where you get the money back, you get a nickel. Those people are so loaded now, okay? So the idea, while it's foreign in its infancy, getting out in the front of the line. As soon as there's a big line, walk away. So he's talking about getting in the front of the line, which I support, as long as we can understand it. It's not tarnishing our image. That's it, Make it pretty, make the money, not make us look stupid with egg on our face, doing something ugly and tacky. It's got to be uplifting and make money.
Right. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir. I want to scoot this along. I've got our financial people to tell us how bad we're
Tom
doing.
Mariani, 5602 Bay Boulevard.
Yes, sir.
Now, wasn't this on the midterm ballot? It just needed 60%, but it didn't, medical marijuana,
That was for the state law.
state law.
And yeah, that was for the state law. It didn't pass, and it's
Right.
back on again.
But it
in
was over
November.
50%, right?
58.
58%.
50, and it needed 60 to pass. Well, that was a midterm election. Now we have a general election coming up, and I presume that will be on that ballot. My point is that it's coming, so it is a small window. I think it's a great opportunity for the low-level THC. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, public? Bring it, oh boy. Hi. You look
Yeah.
like a hippie, Reverend.
Who looks like a hippie?
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course, as most of you know, I've been praying for the city for years. One thing I found, and as those that believe don't make haste, they can be a window of opportunity, but still, oftentimes when you jump into something, make haste, I found that's not it. With our sheriff as a chaplain, as a pastor, and of course, I try, and this has not been received that well sometimes, I try to live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Well, the book of Revelation makes it very clear that the world system as we know it will all be deceived by drugs. That doesn't say whether it's mental or what, but it's drugs. My dad, at 59 years old, was dying. He had congestive heart failure. He had hardening of the arteries. He couldn't lift his hands over his head. This is what he said. Before I die, I'll get as close to God as I can get. He wore out 5 New Testament Bible tapes. He listened to Christian TV day and night. And in 1 year, he was totally healed. He lived another, he was 59. He lived to be 81. What's been happening is there's a creator that wants us to come to him, which is what we want in Port Richey. And the more we reject the creator, the more we're going to look to the creation. Well, he created it, and there's good can come out of it. But all I'm saying is I have to stand with our sheriff to say, hey, almost everybody in jail over there is from drugs one way or the other. My grandson, his father bought him marijuana. Yeah, he smoked it. Why? Because it calmed his mind and he functioned. Well, now he's on all kinds of stuff. And I'll tell you, as I pray, and I'm just going to tell you what I'm telling you as a pastor and caring for the city, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. You're going to hear all the good stuff. You're going to hear all the right stuff. Why? Faith comes by hearing. So this man is here to build your faith and make the decision that he wants you to make because he's a businessman, and that's all right. But it says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, and faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So all I know is it ain't long after you take Jesus out, which is the healer, by his stripes we're healed, to the next thing you're bringing drugs in, and that's the way the city is going. And I know it looks good and it sounds good, but I'll tell you as a pastor and someone that walks with God every day, it's not going to work. The blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth not sorrow to it, and you can't serve God and money. So the way out is to humble ourselves, seek God, and Lord bless you, but there's a better way than marijuana. Bless you.
Anyone else?
I just want to respond to that slightly. We've known each other for quite some time. He's a great man, and we have a lot of respect for each other. So, but to that extent, one thing that I would like to clarify is, I've seen children that are dying, sir. And those children have been giving a non-psychotropic drug, and at the same token, they've had synthetic cocaine shoved up their nose to try to save them, and it didn't work. But you know what? A non-psychotropic plant that was put on this earth by God does. And so when I look at it, and the beauty of life is that there's always 2 sides to every story. And the side that I live is real. And what I mean by that is I'm with these parents, and I'm with these mothers, and I'm with the sick mother and the sick father. And I'm not there holding their hand. I'm there helping them improve their life. And so I think that's really the difference, is that when you live in the real world with these people that have run out of options, and you give them an opportunity to survive, well, they get a whole new life. And yes, your father, he found it through that. But I'm going to tell you that these sick children that have Dravet syndrome and epilepsy, and every drug in the world's been tried at them and it doesn't work, well, when CBD does, is that a miracle or is that a drug? Because it's a plant.
Okay, I'm gonna have to cut this. All right, Ms. Rangel, I have had, what would you like to see happen from this council? Best we could do would be have Joe look into the ordinances you gave, prepare a first reading ordinance, and the public and council can read that. Is that part of what you're
Yeah, I'd like to see the Joe, a wonderful attorney, start to put some magic to paper and get to something that makes sense for the city and something that can be repealed if it's a bad decision. Let's not put the city in a corner. Let's put the city in an opportunity.
Oh, and I agree. I'd like to see Port Richey be the first instead of the last every time. And the second part would be the CBDs. If they're legal, what do we need to do?
Let's set up an ordinance to allow a permitting process to bring some revenues into the city via permitting, and then let's put a tax on if it's possible. I'll work with Joe in giving him some other ordinances that have been passed. I believe Oakland, California probably did the best job, and if we followed a lot of what they implemented, it helped their city, and I think we can help our city with it as well. I think we've got the blueprints already. Let's just start to build a new enterprise.
Okay, hold right here. Do I have a motion to have Joe make a first reading for the decriminalization of THC?
I'm not prepared to do that until we have full council, Doc.
Okay, we'll have to do this again. Okay, and you don't want to do any ordinances on CBD?
Not at this time.
Okay, we will, you want to have it at next council?
You can put it back on the agenda, yeah.
Will you be here in 2 weeks, Tuesday? Put that on the agenda.
I will not be. Actually, I'll be traveling. This is a limited, you guys, some of you may or may not know, but I'm an exceptionally busy entrepreneur with global opportunities that I fly to service. So I'm giving this time to the city to try to get it going forward. What I think would make sense, if I could get you to just reconsider your stance on that, if we could get just a draft ordinance. We're not going towards a motion, we're not going towards anything. Everybody will still have a chance for edits, but at least we're progressing. And we're stuck. Our city is going to lose our charter if we don't do something before too long. We have a huge deficit in the city, and we need to find a way to bring innovation and tax revenues here. And that's what I'm proposing. I'm not going to keep coming back here and go through it if we're not going to progress. And I'm not trying to put pressure on it. 2 weeks ago, I rearranged my schedule to be here. And if we can't move forward, I'm fine with that. But my opportunities, my investment dollars, and my intellect go other places. And when I invest somewhere else, I'm not going to wind up doing it here. I'm going to wind up doing it in Hillsborough County. And that's really the opportunity. You have a world pioneer in your backyard who's trying to help you. You can do all the research in the world that you want, and I'm going to come up on the right side of the fence of it. So this is your chance. This is the line in the sand where you say, look, we want to move our city forward. We're tired of poverty. It's time to move to prosperity.
I see no problem at getting a first reading on something like that, and then we'll have a full council, and we're not shuffling our feet as usual. Nobody?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got two different issues here. One is the decriminalization of 20 grams of marijuana, right? And the other one is to have a clinic or a wellness center that you're wanting to put up that is going to provide low THC, which is really just a component of the plant that does not create those things. You want to do that. So we've got two issues here.
Correct.
So we could have two ordinances.
We need
Absolutely.
a decriminalization ordinance and an ordinance for CBDs,
Okay.
which is the hemp plant.
Which is a hemp plant that comes in oil and flour and all kinds of things. So we can already buy CBD at a filling station?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Shell, right by the mall. I saw a sign out there the other day. It was purchased on Amazon. I mean, by our mayor. I mean, let's.
Okay, so it's like an unnatural medicine is what you're saying.
This will be sold at GNC likely by the end of the year.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. This isn't something that is going to destroy our children and destroy our world and everything else.
Might save them.
Well, I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
it's like vitamin C right now.
Absolutely.
Okay. I understand that part of it. So I think an ordinance on the CBD would be in order. I don't know about the decriminalization of marijuana right now and how that works, but
Well, all we're saying is if your son, daughter, or granddaughter got caught with a joint, our police department would have the ability to give them a felony or give them a ticket. And if it's my sons or daughters or granddaughters, I don't want them criminalized for being stupid.
no, I agree with that. I can totally understand that, but that's where we're getting towards that line.
We cannot trump.
Gives the police a choice. Is that what it does?
We cannot trump federal law.
Exactly.
Yes, it would give us a choice, and it is a first-degree misdemeanor, and yes, it could cause people problems. Like I said, my only issue is with the juvenile part of it, and that's something that we'd have to discuss.
Well, but it's always at the officer's discretion.
That is correct. We will not be taking away their discretion.
So you got a straight A kid that happened to have a joint, they can let him have a pass, as opposed to carrying that thing through job interviews, et cetera. I'm very much for this, I have to tell you. So,
Okay.
no motions. I think we're missing an opportunity. Okay.
I appreciate your time. I do love my city, and I'm only here to help. And I will continue to help in other ways, but not likely in this format. So thank you for your time. I would very strongly suggest that you do some research into this, because there's likely going to become a point where one of your family members this is an option for, and it's a shame that it won't be available to them in the best form in their own backyard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We have.
Mayor, I don't disagree with you on that one. I'm not saying I disagree with you. It's just that it's just like a very, very touchy subject right now. But decriminalization for less than 20 grams so that your kids can get off, I agree with you. They shouldn't be paying
All we
that
have
kind
to
of
do is
penalty.
start an ordinance. We can't pass it for 2 readings.
Okay. I make a motion that we start an ordinance for the decriminalization of marijuana for less than 20 grams.
I have a motion for decriminalization of marijuana for less than 20 grams.
I can't give that a second.
Wow, Terry. Okay.
And I'll tell you why. This has been basically shoved down our throat in the last 2 meetings. I just got this little device tonight, didn't even get to read it.
You know that guy that
So
was
I
just-
understand the implications here. I also understand all the ramifications, but I don't make decisions of this caliber that quickly or without a lot of thought. I understand what you're saying, Doc, and I don't want those kids to have felony records. But I'm also bothered by the fact that the state is still balancing on this. And now I'm given the bum's rush telling me if I don't get on board here, I'm going to miss the boat. Well,
Well, we are.
I don't believe we are, because if you remember all the other things that were the rage, Spice, all these other
No.
things that came down the pike,
Those are psychotropic
everybody got
drugs.
on it. And everybody started selling it. So it's not going to be one person if this goes through. And CBC, it sounds like if it's all that legal, then why is Amazon dumping it?
They didn't dump it.
Well, there's some reason they quit selling it.
No, they didn't.
It's still there, but it's not legal.
No, it is legal. It's still there. It's legal.
It's unprosecutable, is I think what
It's
the
not
word was.
prosecutable.
I am just not ready to go there in a big hurry like this.
Well,
And I don't,
you know, we
jump into
have-
an ordinance without 2 of our council members here and being fed this bum's rush. Anytime I bought a car, anytime I've bought anything in my life, I have never bought when somebody does that to me. In
Well,
fact, it
that
makes me walk
somebody
away.
was in the top
If
100
he's willing to work
entrepreneurs.
with us at a later date, when I have more time to study this, that's fine. But I'm not going to be strong-armed into doing this decision tonight and getting an ordinance together when we don't have all our members here. I think this is, if it's that
Well,
good,
The
we'll
Bums Rush
continue to do
guy
it.
was in the 100 top entrepreneurs in the world. So let's leave it
And I
at that.
congratulate him on that, but.
Next, I got a. Okay, where was it? Okay, well, I'm back to the council. I was gonna let us go by that. I had prepared some things for you guys on the kiosk, but they really didn't come out well enough that I think we can discuss them.
What are we doing?
And we're at council, we're just moving backwards, from general public to council. So, any thoughts? I had produced this, or Joss and I, it's about the kiosk at Nick's Park. But I don't think you can see what, Joss came up with a company, I came up with a company. Did you notice that the two quotes were the same? Absolutely, to the penny. Interesting. Anyway, they were $19,000. I'd like to discuss it. Oh, okay. Did they get one?
No, they're right there, if you want to hand them out, that's why they were there.
One here. These can,
So I thought, and that one there you asked for.
that one. Okay, yeah, these are Fast Access Security Corporation. And what was the other one, Joss, that I looked up? Are they both on here?
I only provided the one that you gave to me. Was there
You did?
another one that you wanted?
Is this the one I looked up, or you?
The one that you gave to me.
Okay,
The one that you
these,
looked up.
interestingly enough, $19,247 is the cost for the readers and the launch machine at Nick's Park. Both Josh's company and mine came out that exact number, which kind of stresses me, but what I wanted to do was have you all look at these machines and look at a possible places to put them. In my opinion, it has to be, or it should be, about 50 feet from the Nick's Park. There'll be, that you put your card in, you can pick launch boat and park. Or you can pick just park without a trailer. And that way, if you have your sticker in your window, each of the trailers, if your boat trailer, it's $10 fee. If you launch, $10 fee. If you just park in one of the singles, it's $5 fee. That's purely my way of looking at it. Pat and I have looked at it. I don't know, I don't see any way less than 100 boats launched in that park a week, and I think that's very, very low. So if you say $10 a boat, 100 boats, it's significant revenue. 52 weeks, $1,000 a week, 52 weeks, and that's a low guess. We have got to do something, folks. We're kicking the can down the road. I'm not looking for anything on this time other than giving you some ideas of how much it'll cost. So, everybody got a quotation? Did you get these? Okay. That's all I have to say. I want to put it forward as fast as we can.
I thought we were gonna do a workshop on this kiosk.
I think, I don't know that it's necessary, but if you want one, I'm happy to do that.
Well, yeah, we've still got to look at how we were going to place this thing, which machine to use, and
Yeah,
Did this narrow down to a certain machine? Evidently did.
not really.
We have many different options, and the last time we had this item on the agenda, we had asked, were there more specific requirements that the council wanted? And I think the outcome of that discussion was that we needed to have a workshop to talk about those options because the kiosk is so customizable. So that's one of many potential options.
There's about 800 companies that will do this. Pete and I were gonna, is he here still? Take a ride down to Anclote and up to Wiki Wachee and take a look at those. We can have a workshop if you want. Jenny?
Well, I thought we were gonna just do a launch fee, not a parking fee. It seemed like it'd be easier than anybody who wants to go in there is gonna launch a boat.
Well, if you're gonna launch a boat and there's a place to park, you're gonna park there. Or you're going down to Seaside and pay the same amount to park and walk back. So I don't see a reason to free parking and a launch fee. I mean, those are primo parking spaces. So, for your thoughts,
And they do have both at Anclote.
They have both? Okay. I'll take a ride down this week and report back. I don't know if you want to narrow it to this or have a workshop. I mean, this is an immense amount of work to try to figure out who does it which way. I think we just have to do it. And moving forward is the only way I know how to do that. So what's the fastest way in your opinion? I'm in.
Don't suppose we can take any action on this tonight. It's not agended.
I think we can. I've gone to sleep several nights with Robert rules, and I believe we can.
We could fix that gentleman over there.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of motion you want to make. We can vote on it.
Well, I guess it depends what you want to try and do, whether or not you can do it since it's not on the agenda. I mean,
Let's agenda that for next meeting, and I will try to bring something forward that, see, with this kind of a copy, and no problem with Jocelyn, you can't see the machines, and what you're really gonna end up with is a ramp. There's two ramps. One needs to be fixed. Pat's figured that out. It's a $29,000 to fix the south ramp. That's the first investment we'd have to make. And then you'll have a machine with a lift, a gate lift, and a machine with a gate lift on each side. One money taker is the fourth palm up from the launch is the perfect place. And you can get away with just one of those, except the south ramp would just have to walk over and get their ticket. Now, once you've launched, you have to get back. And these machines both have the capability of giving you of opening the gate and then giving you a pass to come back in, and so you don't have to pay twice. You get in and out, obviously. So that's really our options. I think, Jocelyn, did you see any major differences in the functions?
Nothing major, but again, it really depends on what you want, because you can essentially have anything you want, So I think that's something to talk about. And I think that's what makes the decision so difficult. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah, we can totally customize it for that. You want to have a workshop, let's do it.
Well, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I do think there's an easier way of doing this, and I think it can be with one setup. If you have a gate at the beginning of Nick's Park, and you get 2 tickets, one to launch, one to park, 2 different colors, the police can go in there and look for that ticket in those windows, and they'll know that if a car is parked in there without a trailer, they just paid more, and they wouldn't be parked in a trailer spot. Be 2 different things, one machine, one setup, no arms, no crazy people breaking the arms that are coming down for the launch. Just seems like there'd be one way of doing it.
Yeah, you'll see at Anclote, there are no arms. It's,
There are no arms.
you just pay and put it on your mirror.
Okay, well,
That's, I'm saying, if you want to park, if they want to pay to park, they'd pay $5 to park and get a green ticket that they put in their car.
and there's no.
And if they have a trailer, they would get a red ticket that they would put in their car. And when the police go through, they're going to see that there's either a red ticket or a blue ticket, and they're going to know who's legal and who's not.
How are they gonna know if that person launched their boat there?
Well, if you're there with a trailer, you have to pay for it before you can get into the launch. You can't go in the other side. It's
Yeah.
one way, right?
No, you go in like that.
It's one way
and you
down in
back
through
up.
it? Okay, so if you set it at the one-way place, so they'd have to go down and turn around and then back up to put their boat in?
Right, and they could drive out.
Well, they could.
Because the parking is not there
But
on the
if they
weekend.
have to get in through the one gate, they have to pay there.
But if they're paying for parking, you're losing your launch fee. And if they're paying for launching and they have to drive out, what do you do with them?
They still have to pay to get in.
But you're losing, let's have a workshop. You're gonna, if they launch and they drive out.
It would be
they pay
paying
the
a launch fee. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. They would be paying that anyway. Whether they park their trailer and their truck there at that time is not our concern. If there's a space, that's great. If there's not a space, they're gonna have to find a place to put their boat and their
So they're
trailer.
gonna pay for a launch and then leave.
They pay for a lunch, they can leave. But they also pay to park.
I think we need a workshop.
Well, do you think you need enough time for a workshop, or would putting it on the agenda be sufficient? Because
I
then
think
you could
it'll
take.
be, Jenny can bring her, we'll do pictures and see what everybody,
Well, it was suggested to me, and I thought it seemed like a simple answer, because you would have just the one gate, the one arm, and it would be before they went out on the water and before they tried to back up and put their boats in. And, because I've watched a lot of people put their boats in before, and I'm thinking that arm's not gonna survive,
and that may be true.
you know?
I'm trying to look in the future and say, and hope that we have parking down so they can go get a parking ticket, go across the street or wherever it may be, and these machines can handle infinite amount of parking. So I'm just trying to make it global. But let's just agenda it and go to the next one.
Just for an agenda item, sir?
Yes.
Next agenda.
And try to get Pete to take a look. He's given me updates on the amount of people that are there seem to be.
Yeah, I've heard.
Let me bring our auditors forward. I apologize. I think that's where I am. Oh, we'll do that after. They've been sitting.
Okay, does everyone have a copy of the audit?
Oh, yeah.
Great, okay.
That
good,
is a
okay,
sleep clinic.
Okay, I promise you I will not review all 92 pages. I'll try to hit what I consider the highlights. The audit was completed earlier, field work in the summer, and in recently completion procedures. Your staff and contract accountant prepared the report. We've reviewed it, so this is a formal presentation. I will direct you to page 1 and 2 is the audit opinion. It states it is a complete audit of the city, completed in accordance with applicable auditing standards that include the financial auditing standards and the government auditing standards. What you seek in an audit is a clean, unmodified opinion that states that the financial statements are an accurate reflection of how the city stood at the end of the fiscal year, what transpired during the year. You have that highest level of assurance, which is a good reflection on the quality of the financial records and practices. I'm going to go to the pertinent financial statements now. The first one being on page 24. The city operates under governmental accounting principles, fund accounting basically. You have two types of funds. you have the governmental funds, and you have enterprise funds. So this is the balance sheet of the governmental funds, of which you have the general fund, the CRA fund, and the capital improvement fund. Fund accounting, the balance sheet is basically cash-oriented. The total assets of these funds were $3,779,158. The total liabilities, $768,016. Fund balances are cash reserves. The total was $3,011,142. If you look in the first column, the unassigned general fund balance, which is $1,152,156, is basically the unrestricted reserve of the city as a whole. We always look at that as to how many months of general fund expenditures would that pay. It should be between 3 and 6. In this instance, it is 4 months. So you're between the 3 and the 6, and you have 4 months. It'd be good to get higher to the 6, but it's good at the 4 months. The next statement on page 26 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances of these same funds. Total revenues, $4,495,410. Total expenditures, $5,013,260. After the transfers in and out, there was excess expenditure over revenue of $517,850. If you look over in the general fund, the excess expenditures were $381,961. It shows a comparison with the prior year. Your revenues were about exactly the same. The expenditures, though in this year, decreased $434,000. And so while the excess expenditures over revenue was $518,000, in the prior year it was almost twice that amount at $950,000. So while you still had expenditures in excess of revenues, it was not as far out of balance as it was the prior year. Okay, the next statement on page 29, or actually 28, this is the balance sheet of the enterprise funds. Port Richey has 2 enterprise funds, water, sewer, and stormwater. The intent of an enterprise fund is to operate off user charges, so you're not having to defray the expenses with your general revenues, and they can go to the general type operations. Here, the balance sheet is called a statement of net position because these funds use business type accounting principles. The total assets were $12,248,118, approximately the same as the prior year. The current assets, the liquid assets, $1,219,269. The total liabilities, $3,371,245. The current liabilities, $572,293. We look again as a measure of liquidity of this fund. The relationship between current assets, current liabilities. It should always be 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. In this year, you hit the 2 to 1. In the prior year, it was 1.4 to 1. So you are a little more liquid in this year than you were in the prior year. If you look at the bottom, the net positions, kind of the net worth, and if you see the unrestricted net position, which is $475,489, just like in the governmental funds, that represents about 2 months of expenditures, which isn't as high as it should be. However, in the prior year, it was just 1 month. So in 1 year, you added 1 more month into your cash reserves. Yes, sir.
Could I take you back?
I'm trying to be
The
efficient.
previous one, you said the best ratio was,
Okay, okay, on here, a
Before
measure
the
of
utility.
liquidity is you should have twice as many current assets as you have current liabilities, or you have that. So if you look at the current assets with 1.2 million, the current liabilities are 572.
Are
So
you-
you have that too.
what page are you on?
I'm on page 28. And I know there's a lot of numbers on here, but if you go, just so, if you look at the first caption is current assets, and
Right.
you look in the total column, the current assets are 1,219,269. And then if you look under the liabilities section, the first caption is current liabilities, and the total is 572,293. So you basically divide the 1.2 million by the 570, and you have twice as many current assets as current liabilities. And in the prior year, you were roughly 1-to-1, so you have improved liquidity in this year. It's not as high, it's good if it could be 3-to-1 if you, and you possibly have improved that even more in the current year, but you are more liquid this year than the prior year. Okay, the next statement on page 29 is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. Here again, business accounting principles, there is depreciation. So if you look at the revenue charges for services, the total was $3,211,973, which is about almost, it's an increase of $482,000 from the prior year. If you recall, in the prior year, there was a write-down of some old receivables of about $400,000, but even the current operations, you had about $80,000 more in revenue in this year. Okay, under operating expenses, there the total is $3,043,560. So your operating income, $168,413. If you see the caption, operating income, which is good. That means you fully paid for depreciation in this year through operations, and also when you look in the prior year, you were in the red, in the negative $466,806. So you made a big turnaround in this year. After the interest and the transfers in and out, and if you look at the change in net position, okay, you could say the net profit for these funds was positive $249,690, which is positive. But if you look again, comparing it to the prior year, you were negative $589,390. But that turnaround in 1 year is over $800,000. So I think that this was a very successful. So while you only have 2 months of expenses in reserves, you significantly improved from the prior year. Okay, so after you have notes and disclosures, and I'll direct you to page 42 to a table that shows the capital assets, depreciable assets. And on 42 are the governmental assets. These are the non-enterprise assets. The total at cost, $13,563,308. Accumulated depreciation, $5,203,713. Net assets, $8.4 million. What does this tell you? These assets are about 38% used up, depreciated, and the average that I see in cities is about 30 to 35. So yours are a little bit older than other assets, which you might well know, but they're not. I delivered one audit where it was like 50% for a city even larger than you. So those aren't really bad. The next on page 43 is the equivalent table for your enterprise assets. Here, the asset cost is $18,784,735. Accumulated depreciation, $7,836,387. Net assets, $10.9 million. These assets are 42%, so again, that's a little bit higher than average, but it's not horrible. And so I'm sure you know that's a reason that you would try to build reserves and try to make replacements when you can.
So we're on a slight curve up.
Yes, a slight, it was a change, in everything I see a change, you were like there, and so you're slight curve up. Okay, at the bottom of page 43 is the debt. I like to look at long-term debt. And this again is the governmental, you can kind of say the general fund debt. And at the end of the year, you had a loan relating to a property, a purchase of a property in the CRA. The balance was $107,143. You had the bond issue, which I think paid for this building. The balance $615,000. You had some capital leases on a fire truck and some generators, $206. And then you had compensated absences. That is the calculation of how much you would owe general fund employees if they all terminated at the end of the year, $426,168. So the key thing is here, you started out with debt of $1,561,165. You reduced it to $1,355,057. So you reduced it about $200,000. So you owed less in governmental debt at the end of the year than at the beginning of the year. Okay, the next page, 44, is the table of the enterprise fund debt, and you have the revenue bonds that were for water sewer improvements. The balance at the end of the year were $2,615,000. You had compensated absences, $80,000. So here again, the debt went from $2,765,430 down to $2,695,653, which was a reduction of about $70,000.
Do you know what that bond is, 205D?
It is some water sewer improvements. And if you, it's described on page 45, and it says to construct water and sewer improvements. I'm assuming it occurred in 2005.
That's the well. Yeah, we bonded the well.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, and I think it probably consolidated one bond issue, and then you got some more money and that.
That's all been done. I think we can consolidate another one of these.
Good, and so out of interest, the bond, the note that's on this building will pay out in 2020. 4 or 5 years, it'll be gone. On page 46, the loan on the property, well, all of them, the bond on this loan will pay out in 2020, 5 years. You have a capital lease that'll pay out in 21. So a lot of your general fund debt will be gone in 4 or 5 years, which is also commendable. The big bond issue in water sewer will pay out in 2035, so that'll be longer. And I'm not really sure what that interest rate is, but it's possible that as your financial condition improves, you'll have an opportunity to reissue that at a lower interest rate, possibly. Okay, so then on page 49 is something that I'd like to show you. The city participates in the Florida retirement system, as do all counties, school boards, and most. That in prior years, we were just required to include a disclosure that said, here's the way the system works, here's how much the city contributes. You pay exactly what the contribution rates are under a new governmental accounting standard principle that was just issued. You now have to show in your financial statements what your portion of the net pension liability of that whole big fund is. And on page 49, there's two components. There's the retirement component and health insurance. But when you add them up, your liability is $2,324,906, which is interesting. That's everywhere I've been, that's the biggest liability that the government has. And so you will not likely to have to pay that directly with the check, but it just is an indication that your contribution rates will not lower, they'll probably increase. And if you're interested, the total liability of FRS is about $23 billion of the net pension liability. And purportedly, Florida FRS is one of the stronger multi-employer funds, pension funds. So, and it is a thing that FRS had to give us, had to calculate what everyone's net pension liability was, and their year ended was last June, and it took them till middle of April to give us this information. So that was one thing that delayed the completion and release of the audit. So overall, financially, I would say exactly with what you mentioned, Mayor. You stopped a trend, and you increased your net position, net reserves in both the governmental funds and the enterprise funds.
So we hit the nadir and we're coming back.
You were like that, and now you're headed up a little bit. Okay, I mentioned that the audit was conducted in accordance with government auditing standards as well as financial. On page 87, 88 is our report regarding the procedures required by government auditing standards. They go beyond numbers and include internal control over financial reporting, compliance with various laws, regulations, terms of grants. In this report, it has no findings or question costs. On page 89 is the management letter. The management letter is required by rules of the Auditor General of Florida. It would include findings and recommendations that are not necessarily material to the financial statements, but areas with which we wish to make you aware. We always look at the status of any prior year findings and then look at if there's any new ones. In the prior year, there was one finding regarding with red light camera traffic fine. In the prior year, we noted that collections and disbursements of this program were inadvertently calculated incorrectly, which resulted in an approximate liability of $60,705 due to the state. During the current year, this year, the city fully corrected the distribution formula, recorded that liability in their financial records, and we've been advised by management this liability will be liquidated in the next budget cycle, and that's basically what the management's response says. There were no additional reportable findings in the current year, so the prior year finding was addressed. There were no new findings. The annual report that's filed electronically and has been filed is in agreement with the audited financial statements. We did financial condition assessment procedures. I've given you those highlights. We determined that the city would not met any of conditions of a financial emergency. You were not anywhere near a financial emergency. You didn't have deteriorating financial conditions. Did not disclose any other items that were required. On page 91, finally, is a newer report. We're required to perform audit procedures regarding the city's investment of public funds. We did those and had no issues. So that's the audit as efficiently as I can deliver, so I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
It was much better than I did sleeping on it. Any questions from the council?
I'm good. I thought the opportunity. And, just like to say one thing. Perfect job. Nice job. Not one mistake, by the way, over the course of the year. Generally, right? That's pretty good.
Yes,
not one management comment. So either they're not doing a good job or you're doing a great one.
Okay, if nothing else, I thank you very much and apologize for having.
No, it's a pleasure working with the city, and we look forward to hopefully working with you again next year.
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you.
We have to go backwards, don't we, Joe?
Consent agenda, yes, sir.
We go Okay. I have a consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? If Jim approved it, I can tell you it's okay. Motion to approve consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
A second?
Okay, motion to approve consent agenda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And where are we now?
We are going backwards.
Okay, we are on number 4, changes personnel manager. I don't know where the hell mine went. Who am I turning this over to you?
You can turn it over to Jim.
Okay,
Do you want me to
Jim.
do it? I mean, either of us can.
Go ahead, Jim, please.
This is what we, Councilman Rowe's suggestion last time we got in the personnel manual. Mr. Public and I have had a long conversation, and in light of some of the comments were made by the council, it's our recommendation that going forward, that rather than start a long process of amending the personnel manual for whatever reason, I sense you would want to do that, that we, right now, the only way I can explain this is our personnel manual is in our code. It used to be Appendix C to it. Why it was put there, I'm not really sure. Most personnel manuals are a document outside of the code. When it's in the code, every time you want to make even a minor change, you're going to need 2 readings of an ordinance, and now substantial fees for publication. They've tripled. So what we're suggesting, Mr. Public and I, is that Mr. Public, a motion be made to direct Mr. Public for first reading to amend the present personnel manual. Pretty much what we'll do is we'll strike the whole thing, put 1 sentence in replacing it saying the city will maintain a personnel manual to comply with the charter. And it will not be changed without the vote of council, okay, so to keep the power within council. And then immediately after the second reading, we'll be seeking a resolution to approve the present personnel manual. Then at that point in time, it's out of the code, and you can start making changes nimbly. Okay, so did I get that right, Mr. Public?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
That's our recommendations. That's what we're looking for, and then we can have your workshops and then make all changes and at any time. Okay. Questions?
I'll make the motion, being the hours late, to direct the city attorney to amend the present personnel manual. That's what you need.
Okay.
And leave the power to make those changes within the council. Is that good enough for what you need?
Yes, sir, I know what I need to do.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and a question. My old buddy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Stephen Sarnoff, President, Communication Workers of America, Local 3179, 2165 Sunnydale Boulevard, Clearwater, Florida. The word nimbly, that struck a chord. You have received notification by now from our union explaining, illustrating that personnel manual is a mandatory subject of bargaining for your employees who are represented by the Communication Workers of America. When we negotiated our first contract with the city, in an effort to work in a cooperative fashion and to back off from being adversarial, we had agreed and put language in the contract that said that those parts of the manual that apply to your general employees that we represent are embossed, okay? Meaning that any changes to the manual sections that apply to us, not to management, not to your directors, not to your professional employees or your confidential employees, but only the general employees, those particular things cannot be changed without bargaining with the union to make those changes. That's law, that's precedent, there's no question about it. Okay, this is not a, this is what it is. we did something in good faith with the city at the time that we created the first contract. And I don't know, again, we have some new people on the council who may not be aware of the history. But for many years, we would just come in basically and work on a pay raise. We didn't try and reinvent the wheel all the time. You know, everybody was pretty good with how things were, and it worked out really well. So again, you know, we don't want to change our relationship with the city, but we want to put you on notice that changes to the manual that in any way affect language that affects your represented bargaining unit members has to be negotiated with the city. And do we have any questions?
No, but that is not the legal opinion we have, nor as I.
Well, I'd like to hear that from Mr. Pavlik, please.
This doesn't affect that. I can still go forward with what I've been directed to do.
Oh, so the negotiations go as
Yes, sir.
Let me ask.
Once, assuming that this ordinance is passed and the council adopts that resolution, any changes to those items in the personnel manual which do affect that class of membership, we do have to bargain with them under the existing contract. So that part is correct.
Okay, but we found, and I'd like Mr. Matthew to talk to this, to change anything in the ordinance as it stands without this, in the personnel manual as it stands is getting more and more cumbersome financial. Did I say that as you would like?
Well, I don't think our position is that we oppose taking it out from an ordinance.
There you go. Nimble is good, right? Nimble is not a derogatory
No.
term, right?
Nimble's a terrible term, you son of a gun.
I know
No.
Mr. Starnoff well, by the way.
Yes, we know each other many years. So anyway, bottom line is, okay, we're okay with it being out of the ordinance. We just want to make sure we're on record officially that no changes to the terms of condition of employment, which are part of what's in the personnel manual, can be changed without mandatory subject to bargaining.
Mr. Pollock and council are well aware of that, and my recommendation remains the same. And to look forward to negotiating with you in the future, and perhaps we now can change from, it's really hard to make any changes outside of the salary, so council could be nimble and not have to go slow, so we'll be even faster than ever, Mr. Sarnoff, I'm sure.
Okay, well, so I hope now we can get back and finish the bargaining that we thought we had finished. I don't know why the pay raise was denied. We never got an official, no communication in writing from the city. Why it was that the proposal that we had and accepted was turned down by the very people who proposed it. So it's kind of a whack thing. The 3% pay raise, that's what I'm talking about there.
We proposed.
That was before my time.
Yes, there was in the budget, there was a 3% pay raise for the employees put in their back for this fiscal year.
Oh, that was under King Tom's, right?
Yeah.
We haven't
Yeah,
settled that,
part
that's
of the
still
subject
outstanding,
that
that's
we
what
will
you're
be
discussing now.
Negotiating on July 20th.
Yeah.
This is one of
July
the subjects.
20th?
Yes, sir, July 20th, we have a collective bargaining meeting.
Oh, that's right, okay, thank you. Took me a minute there.
It's for the last year, we haven't even started working on the next one.
I know. I'm hoping someday to change that too.
I got
Joe.
it.
All right, so I think we're okay now. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a motion and a second.
You do, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. And that brings us to the end of
Yes, sir.
a long day.
I think you're right.
Do I have a motion
I don't think there's anything else, is there?
Anything to say?
Usually you leave it open to council if they want to say anything, right? Do you want to say
And if
anything?
you want to, I think.
In closing,
He's getting to look for a motion to adjourn. I'm asking if you have anything you want to say.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's get out of here.
I mean, I have to agree with you what the appropriate Dakota is now, but was he a little out of line or what? Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to listen, but. I'm sorry? She's up in the Panhandle working.